I'm Ed Hess. I'm a professor of business administration and Baton Executive Residence at the Darden Graduate School of Business, where I teach a second-year elective called Managing Smaller Enterprises. And in substance, that course is a post-startup course about how you grow a private business. That's the focus I take here. And that course has evolved, and it's based on a major research project that we did here called the Darden Private Growth Research Project, where we basically interviewed 54 high-growth companies, entrepreneurial companies, private companies that were located in 23 different states, product companies and service companies in different industries, looking to learn from these CEOs how they manage the challenges of growth. We went in trying to understand, if you will, how did they basically put in processes and controls? How did they prioritize what did they put in? How did they basically manage, if you will, the complexity and the chaos of growth? How did they basically take care of customers and train employees and hire employees and put in processes all at the same time? And we tried to understand also, how did they scale their business? What did they outsource? What did they build internally? What role did strategy play? How concerned were they about their competition? How did they basically learn to hire and train employees? How did they build a culture? What type of measurement systems did they use? Did they give out equity? All of those type of questions that an entrepreneur faces once they reach a business, and we were starting out saying that the business needed to be successful. We're talking about good entrepreneurial businesses that decided to scale and grow. Companies in our survey basically had an average revenue in 2008 of $60 million. They ranged from $5 million to $350 million. Their average age was 9.6 years. About half of the entrepreneurs had prior industry experience in the area which they started a business, and half did not. Over half the companies had no outside venture capital or equity capital. They were self-funded and bootstrapped. And the findings in that research produced a 34-case series, the Darden Private Growth Case Series, which looked at the various issues that we were, from an operations viewpoint, a management viewpoint, an HR viewpoint, a finance viewpoint, a quality control viewpoint, a scaling viewpoint, the challenges of growing a private business. And I want to talk about two different segments in the course that I teach. And the first segment is, how do you grow a business? And students resonate to what I call the 4 Gs. You grow a business by either innovation, improvements, scaling, or buying growth. And improvements are doing something better, all right? Most growth in certain stages of a business's life comes from improvement. Innovation is doing something new. The research shows a lot of innovation comes at the startup phase, not at the growth phase, and even the bigger you get, the harder it is to be innovative. Scaling is, if you will, the booster, the thruster. Scaling is how you basically achieve high growth. Scaling is doing more of what you're already doing and that you've learned works well. And then buying. And most of the companies in our study did not make acquisitions. We have 3 cases in our private growth company case series: the C.W. Barger case, the Three Fellers Bakery case, and Haas Shoes. And these are cases where the entrepreneur is confronting the challenges of growth. In the Barger case, it's a case of a company that has a history. It plateaued. It is selling a commoditized product, septic tanks, where there is no product differentiation and customers make the decision solely on price. And a family member is asked to take over this business and change it into a growth business. Case A puts forth the challenge to the students. How does he take a commoditized, non-differentiated product and change the customer value proposition, create differentiation, and grow a business? And I use Case A lot of times, even as a midterm exam for students, but it also works in class. And it taxes them to think about, wow, how do you grow? What are the aspects of growth? All right, growth is more than a strategy. Wow, do I try to improve the product, differentiate the product? How do I build a brand? How do I do advertising? Can I create different standards? Is it an engineering issue? How do I reach the ultimate consumer instead of just the home builder? Very challenging case. Case B is the answer to case A because it shows how the protagonist in the case actually quadrupled the business in 3 years. How he took a commoditized product and differentiated it. How he created industry standards, which in his geographical area of the country, Tennessee, he was the only supplier that could meet those standards. It's a fun case. Case B also has a growth question. Now that he's quadrupled the revenue in 3 years, he now wants to build a concrete plant, a substantial investment, because he wants to even quadruple revenue again. And it puts forth the question to students, should the family make that concrete plant investment? Or should they continue to basically buy concrete from third parties? Three Fellers Bakery is a fascinating story about a retired guidance counselor who basically contacted or became celiac. She couldn't eat wheat or flour, all right? She needed gluten-free bakery products. She loved baking and cooking, and she was very unhappy with the products that she could buy in the stores. So she took a year and created her own unique proprietary flour. And she basically started creating bakery products. And it shows the entrepreneurial story because it's classic. She bootstrapped, cooked in her kitchen, gave to friends, bootstrapped, sold at farmers markets, and basically outgrew her kitchen and opened up a bakery and became very successful. And the challenge in this case is she now faces several major decisions because she has multiple growth alternatives. Over her first year, she has basically put her products into certain Whole Foods in the Mid-Atlantic region, other grocery stores, and there is huge demand for her product. She has diversified her products. She is starting to build an employee base. And she's trying to decide, how do I grow my business? Raises interesting questions as to why should she grow? How should she grow? How does she manage that growth? How does she scale manufacturing? How does she scale distribution? And the fascinating part of the case is she does not have a business background and really doesn't enjoy business. She enjoys creating and baking cakes. And it's a good case for students to understand the limits of growth and how an entrepreneur's personal goals and background directly influences how big a company can be, should be, and how it becomes a growth company. The third case is Haas Shoes. Haas Shoes is a story of a shoe retailer who basically sells extra wide shoes and has a great little business. And he wants to expand his business. And this is a case where also, how does he improve his business? How does he innovate? How does he scale? Should he buy other shoe stores? Should he change his business model? And it makes students focus on what is the customer value proposition. Can he make buying shoes an emotional experience a la Starbucks? Can he create more reasons to buy shoes and follow Tiffany & Company's example? Can he basically become a wholesale distributor instead of a retailer to other shoe stores? All of these three cases basically focus students on key questions. Why grow? How much to grow? What's the best way to grow? How do I not, if you will, exceed my capabilities, my financial capability? How do I continuously improve my customer value proposition so I can outcompete the competition? And what are my personal goals and how does that interrelate with the business goals?